I'm joined right now by Graham Renz, who is with the Show Me Institute. ShowMeInstitute.org is their website. Graham, welcome in.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Absolutely. Did you get a chance to watch the inauguration today?
I've seen some highlights.
Okay.
So,
sorry I didn't. You probably tied up on your way over here, weren't you?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, good. So when it comes to renovating either America Center or Scottrade or building a new soccer stadium, it seems like St. Louis has suddenly found some big money tree that they think they can shake and come up with tens of millions of dollars of taxpayer money. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And the funny thing is, it's not a tree. It's all of us listening. It's the taxpayers, right? So policymakers here in St. Louis City are continuing to try to spend their way to prosperity. The latest additions, some folks might be aware, there have been various efforts to fund a professional soccer stadium here in downtown. Originally, the city was looking to chip in only $80 million. Now it's just a measly $60 million. And there's plans to renovate the convention center, the America Center, to the tune of $350 million. There's also efforts to expand the Metrolink. The mayor's going to have a sales tax on the ballot. Scott Trade Center is looking to get renovated. There's a lot of things that are hungry for taxpayer dollars right now.
It sounds like it. Let's get back real quick to the America Center proposal, because I'm not as familiar with that one as I am the other two. What are they hoping to do? I was told that they were kind of happy the Rams weren't there anymore because it freed up space for, to bring extra conventions in, and got extra floor space, even though that place is huge. Is that not the case? Are they wanting to pull the seats out or do something different in there, make it not a stadium anymore?
I'm not aware of that much detail. I know the plans right now, they're slated to expand the overall space in the America Center itself, to add some new loading docks, just general improvements overall. But the question is, it's not whether that's a lot of money or it is a lot of money. If renovating this facility is a great idea or not, the question is if it is it really worth it? Are taxpayers going to get a return on their investment? And history shows us that we probably won't. We're looking at throwing $350 million. Not too long ago, the America Center was renovated to tune of about $150 million. They added the dome for $280 million. These additions were supposed to, blow up the hotel and restaurant industry. They promised 800,000 annual room nights. And that's just jargon for how successful the restaurant hotel industry is doing in downtown. They promised 800,000. Just in 2014, they hit 425,000. So long and the short of it is these promises that they've made 20, 30 years ago, we're just barely halfway to those coming to fruition.
Right.
And now they're asking for, over $250 million.
And we've seen businesses, particularly a lot of restaurants, fail downtown, right? Clearly for lack of business that is not being brought in convention-wise. Despite
the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been thrown in these areas through subsidies, through just general tax revenue like this, we're not going to grow the economy by taxing taxpayers in general to prop up downtown restaurants and downtown hotels.
Right. So I guess the problem is the city doesn't. Is it the Convention and Visitors Bureau that actually owns America Center? How does that ownership go? It's not the city, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, but with Scottrade, the city actually owns the property. The Blues basically lease it, and then they also do concerts and venues and things like that in the venue. So I'm thinking to myself that unless they take out a bond issue, are they just talking about a direct a sales tax increase to try to raise this money? Have they mentioned any specifics about it?
So the idea would be to use new revenues on hotels.
Okay.
So there'd be a new hotel restaurant tax. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So the idea is to export the taxation. So folks here, predominantly folks who spend the night here in hotels in St. Louis, aren't St. Louisans. So the idea is we can get visitors to pay for these upgrades, right? But and that sounds good, except that if we have all this money that's raised from these new taxes, it doesn't mean that the best way to spend it is on expanding the convention center, the dome, and the America Center, right? So there's a lot of other ways we could spend this money to have a much greater impact than on the convention center.
So somehow it always, the spin is that you don't support the city if you don't support these kinds of expenditures. And it's, the bottom line is it's just looking at the facts and the studies as to what the return is on the investment. It doesn't always make a lot of sense. Well, what if they spent half that amount? Let's see what it does. I don't know. They've been going around in circles on some of this for years, arguing that bringing the NCAA, and now they're saying that if we don't upgrade Scottrade Center, we're not going to be able to get the National Collegiate Athletic Association to bring in those regionals for basketball or the Frozen Four, all that stuff. Lots of threats flying around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not as familiar with the events held at the Scottrade Center and what kind of impact that has on the city. Again, we need to ask ourselves if we're taxing and spending to get money, are we getting all that money back? But with the convention center, at least, it loses millions and millions and millions of dollars each year. We're not drawing in these huge events. They say we need to expand the convention center to draw these huge, these huge conferences that have tens of thousands of attendees.
Right.
In the last 3 years, we've averaged about 10 of these mega conferences a year. We're not going to – it's not a spend it and they will come sort of issue, right? So I think if we're proposing these huge tax increases, one, we should we should ask if we should be doing them in the first place. But secondly, spending them in the ways that's being proposed right now, ask ourselves if that's the best way to do it.
That's a great point. Graham Renz from the Show Me Institute. You can go to their website, showmeinstitute.org, for more information on this issue and a lot of other ways that your tax dollars are spent. Graham, I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on, Mark.
Thank you very much. Continuing to follow what's going on